Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Abby, Jordan, and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Abby, and I am your host. I have Logan and Jordan with me as always. Logan, what'd you do this week? Play any Flesh and Blood?
We did. We played some Blitz with full meme capabilities going on Thursday night, where our Blitz consistency was 2 Lexis. So that's always a good start, right? A Merchant. Somebody's playing Merchant.
Oh, awesome.
A Levia. So we have another Levia sighting. Also, Benji was brought into the mix for a hot minute. Benji did not last long, but Benji was there doing things. That was fairly entertaining. We did another Welcome to Wraith Draft just to kind of make sure what we're seeing is right, and I can confirm completely Rhinar is shit. And it's unplayable garbage unless you pretty much happen to open like the three best Rhinar cards and get past the next 3. You don't have a shot with that deck. It's not good.
Interesting.
Yet again, Dorinthia with a 3-0. So that is 3 or 4 drafts in a row where Dorinthia was the 3-0. So if you can go again with Dorinthia, the ceiling is the highest, but the floor is super low if you don't. So that's something interesting, a good takeaway, and Bravo is just generically good. Then last night, playing a little CC, so cool thing happened. So I walk into the store that we play in, and I just walked into the game room and was getting ready to sit down, hang out, wait for people, and somebody walked up and said, "Hey, are you here for Flesh and Blood?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And they're like, "Oh, so are any of these decks good to play tonight?" We're playing Classic Constructed, and he pulls out 2 pre-con Blitz decks. And I'm like, "No, we're playing Classic Constructed tonight, so you'd want to be bigger." He's like, "Oh, so I can't really play tonight." And I was like, "Well, I mean," and you asked a lot of questions about the game, very new. It's just like, and they're like, "So what would it take to get into the game?" Like, honestly, if you just wanted to start playing and start getting a feel for the constructed portion of it, if you buy like a box or 2 of Tales of Aria, you can probably build a decent version of Briar and just be playable. And they're like, "Oh, okay." Like 5 minutes later, walks back to the table with 2 boxes of Tales of Aria. So then we proceed to crack said boxes. Build
You and this random guy.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Build a functional Briar deck. Mind you, they cracked a Corsham. So, just casual find the tree in the second box you ever open.
Welcome to the show. Yeah. Okay.
Well, welcome to the game. You are now addicted. You have no choice in the matter. And they didn't do great. It wasn't a perfect Briar deck, but they learned real quick, and we're getting some of the most, they were having Briar turns, that's for sure. Got to play. I decided to play Kano, which
Okay.
It feels broken until it's not. There are definitely hands where you draw 4 reds and go, "Well, I'm doing nothing. That seems great." And there's hands where you draw 4 blues and go, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do 18."
Kind of crazy.
So we got steamrolled by Bravo, playing a Bravo player walking in the room with full null rune, just ready for it. So it's like, oh, okay. Well, we're never winning this one.
3 pieces. Hello.
Right. Playing against Briar, and that was, it's just a race against the clock for both of us. And then playing against Dash, which was a weird matchup. They were playing 2 null rune, so the ability to, shut off a little bit of it. But the fact that you kind of just can set up what we in the Magic parlance would call time walks, where you're just basically taking 2 turns in a row, it's definitely something that makes the deck feel unreal good when it happens, where you can just be like, okay, I'm going to take whatever damage you're sending at me, because it's not going to kill me. And in this case, it put me to 1. And I'm sorry, you're at 18? Okay, so end of your turn, when you have no cards in hand because you just did all the things. Here's 11. And then move to, my turn, draw a hand, back to your turn, here's 11 more. When you're starting your attacks, so you've pitched cards and you're using resources and you just wait. And that feels extremely powerful. And like you just can't lose even when you start with 30 life, which, by the by, starting at 30 life and turning on your skull cap immediately does feel great. So, I feel like Kano's interesting, and I'm scared if they add more good wizard cards, specifically that are blue, that it could just be problematic. Also, side note, pitching Eye of Ophidia feels exactly how you think pitching Eye of Ophidia would feel, which is awesome.
I saw your message about that in our Discord. That's a really fun card to play with, it seems like.
Like, I pitched the card and I opted to, and I sat there and not even thinking that I had the resources to activate Kano, thinking I had to pitch another card to activate Kano, and my opponent's like, no, you pitched it, so you have it to activate Kano. I'm like, oh god, it does that. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
It also pitches to activate Kano, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad yet sad that we can only play one of these. But
in addition to opting 2, that is right. So many 2s. It's so many ops.
It's opt 2, and it's like, okay, is there a 0 or a 1 cost here? Oh yeah, cool. Put that on top of my deck. Hopefully it's a snapback or something like that where it can just do the thing. Or gaze the ages. Gaze the ages
off right now at 350.
What's that? Oh yeah. I mean,
350 is pretty high, I think.
350 is high, but all the Fableds that are out of print are basically chase cards, and if they're playable, they're playable.
Right.
So I mean, 350 is pretty high, though. You might be able to do better, but I think I've seen some float around in the 300s.
Okay, I'll chill.
But yeah, it feels very, very, very good to do. And then, like I said, Gaze the Ages, where it's find a Gaze the Ages, leave it on top, play Gaze the Ages for 0, opt 3, and then it goes into your hand as it resolves if you played another wizard action in front of it. And so you just bring it back to your hand.
Opted and like, and then
and then you have a blue to pitch because it's blue. It just feels like a bunch of free cards. It's one point in time, like I just lining everything up, and it feels like I have 9 cards in a line. I'm just like, this is okay. This is a lot. This could be problematic for people.
That's awesome.
That's about it. That's about all I had. It felt like a really good. It felt like a really good week of Flesh and Blood, honestly, especially with literal nothing going on. To have a week where the game on a lot of axes was super satisfying.
Yeah, we're in a spot where we're news light. Just being able to play cool games with people is sweet. And then, like you said, getting that I'm really fascinated by that new guy story. That's like, oh, I just need to go buy 2 boxes. All right, be right back. Like, yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, that was my theory, was just that I think we can build a functional deck out of like just a couple of boxes of Aria. And we did.
So, yeah, that's awesome.
Jordan, what were you up to?
We played a couple of games, Abby and I, but we didn't play any sanctioned Flesh and Blood. Kind of just coming down from the holidays and work stuff starting to pick back up, and COVID kind of all compounded in the issue of just stay home this past week. So, did that, but we did play a couple of games. I'm really interested in the Katsu gameplay loop right now, and kind of feeling out what mega turns for that deck look like. If I had to play a tournament tomorrow, I would probably play Katsu, because I had to play like a PTQ tomorrow. So
I might actually play Kano if I had to play one tomorrow. But who knows? We're going to have an entire new set before we hit that season. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Like you said, like the 4th of February changes a lot of things, right? So
Absolutely true.
What about you, Abby? I mean, I guess I kind of talked for both of us, but
Yeah, I think you kind of stole that thunder. No, Jordan and I played a couple games. But other than that, we'll look again this week and see about maybe going to a sanctions thing, but I don't know. It's scary out now, so I'm more comfortable just staying at home. Literally always the case, but
yeah. Well, don't get the idea that Abby was a socialite before before COVID. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, me and some buddies here are looking at doing some AM testing sessions on Tabletop Simulator, to like kind of get the playtesting in that's important for upcoming like stuff, but also like be safe about it. I know the guys from like Arsenal Pass do that. It sounded like a really good idea of like, I mean, it's really hard to find time after work some days, but like I can always squeeze an hour or two in before work.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like we're pretty lucky to have a insular crew that are fairly responsible humans around here. So it's not an extreme worry. And also, and I've said this before, that we have some very nice, very spread out with a lot of game spaces. So there's not a lot of people jammed close together or anything like that. So it makes it feel quite a bit more comfortable than a lot of other spaces would.
I think Columbus actually, for LGSs and the player community, I feel very similarly that like spaces are as safe as reasonable. Like the players themselves are reasonable and safe and smart. I guess I'm talking more from like a personal risk threshold.
Sure.
Yeah. But no, I think like we're both pretty fortunate in this fact that like we don't play with idiots, right? Like our local stores aren't run by morons, But I'm just from like the personal, we don't eat out really anymore, or like any kind of thing like that, just as a way to trim back. But
as an aside, if everything goes poorly for me, I do have just a bottle of Malort sitting to my right, and
I forgot you lived in the region for Malort. That's so gross. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, this bottle is actually fantasy football punishment.
Sure.
That somebody is going to have to. Steve will have to.
Oh yeah, Steve.
Partake in a little bit of this Malort, which is currently sitting on a shelf, surrounded by Predacons right now, protecting the Malort. As if the fact that it's Malort itself is not protection enough from people drinking it.
God, it's so gross.
It's just horrible.
Can we get a breakdown of what Malort is for listeners who might not know? Definitely not me, who for sure knows what it is.
Malort has been called the worst liquor of all time.
Okay, good start.
It is made in Chicago and has always been made in Chicago for the longest time. It was only distributed in Chicago, but was another company bought the distillery that made Malort, and now it's distributed in the Midwest at large. It is the best way to describe it is it tastes like you mixed lighter fluid with dry rot. But by calling it fucking awful, you're doing a disservice to fucking awful.
Yeah, to give you a description of of what it is, Malort itself, Jeppson's itself, describes the flavor as an unusual botanical.
There's nothing botanical about it. Yeah,
and if you just Google the word Malort, the people also ask why is Malort so bad? It is the bitter herb that it is made from is known to kill stomach worms. Malort tastes like, okay, that's an actual description of the taste. It's not helpful. Who drinks Malort is one of the questions that Google says.
No one voluntarily drinks Malort. It is
no.
This is why it's punishment.
That's actually not true. I have a friend that is very, very into Malort. Whenever he goes westward for shows, he picks up a bottle or two.
Okay, fine. And Wesley and the Princess Bride was voluntarily taking iocane powder to build up a resistance. Does that make it better?
Oh, no. I'm just saying absolutes are not true, even though they absolutely should be with Malort.
It's so bad. My God.
This description, I don't want to become a Malort podcast, but this description is Malort smells like a combination of burning garbage and Ricola with a massive wallop of alcohol. On first taste, nothing but rubbery alcohol and smoky rubber hit your palate.
Yep.
Yeah, that's damn.
Yep. Dry rotten lighter fluid.
That is so good.
So it is. This stuff, I don't know. Like, if you needed to wean somebody off alcohol, it'd be like, okay, the only alcohol you get to drink is Malort, and they will be sober in
a
minutes.
day. Yeah. They're like, oh, never mind. Cold turkey's
You're done.
Fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so
god
funny.
awful.
It's so funny. Anyway, now you know what Malort is, everybody.
Good to know. That's
you're
right.
Worse off for it.
For all of our friends, I wanted to make sure everybody 100% knew what that was.
Yeah, because you knew. I mean,
exactly 1,000%.
You already knew. Yeah.
How would I not know?
Right.
All right, so let's get into it. So, news this week, we got a spoiler.
Ish.
Kind of. We'll link the image in the show notes so that you can take a look at it. It is a playmat that has a character that we do not know on it. Definitely ice related. Maybe a wizard, hopefully.
We all know it's just another runeblade. Like,
well,
let's just
for sure.
It's
they
just
need the
another
top
runeblade.
3 spots.
Yeah. Like, what? Just it does look cool. The art is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a large chance that it's just a card.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a hero. That it's just a majestic.
It could just be a Oldham Majestic or something, or a Guardian, whatever. I'm hoping that they do start tying elements to some classes, to some other classes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd be really interested in an Ice Brute. Or
oh, sure, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Or a, so our elements so far we have are Ice, Earth, and Lightning. Lightning Wizard, I think, is a terrible idea. Because you don't want to give that deck things like Flash. Like, just no. But I think you could have some fun adding elements to classes. So, like, Ice Brute would be interesting. Earth... Maybe Earth Warrior? But something along those lines where you're giving... Lightning Ninja, you're giving something. Don't do that, please. No.
Yes, please. Ship me more
Gogans.
I said that out. I said that out loud and immediately just like regretted.
Let me have lightning presses and all of those things in my index.
No, thank you.
Let me just push through my Kadachis that you think you're blocking cutely onto.
Yeah,
your blade break equipment, please.
It's like a Kadachi, pitch a blue, Kadachi, ball lightning, something. Oh no.
Yes.
That sounds god awful. Please.
I don't know if they would actually play ball lightning or not, but
maybe.
So yeah, sure.
Why
not?
A blue ball lightning is probably still fine. It's a 0 cost, pitches for 3. It can amplify damage later. It's probably still fine.
Just like, all the cards in that deck that, like, if it hits, it gains go again. Like, could you imagine lightning pressing through that last piece of damage? Like,
you
razor, block out and you're like, fine.
Razor Reflex for free. Yeah.
Yeah,
great.
Oh my god. Give it to me, please.
No
thanks. You should join LSS.
I really shouldn't. That's just a terrible idea. Dear God.
Nope. If this is another hero, right? So we'll say Ice Wizard. We'll start there. That's 3 that we have for the set, right? Because we'll have the Bard, Valda, and then this. Will there be more than that? Or will it just be those 3?
In Crucible, there was Datadol, the Merchant, Kavadine, I'm trying to remember names now, which is awful. I mean, I have a Google machine in front of me. I could probably just be looking this up. Shiana was the Legendary. Benji was in that set, and the Kasari Sellsword, or Kasai, I think, is it Centauri Sellsword. So there are 5 in Crucible. So we could definitely be looking at more than just the 3, especially as the Legendary. In Crew, at least, they were all Blitz characters. And that supplemental was to supplement, 2 sets. that's not a lot. And so here we go again, and maybe they're thinking they just need to add more to the ability to play anything else. Who knows?
Yeah, this is one of the areas, full spoiler alert for me. I hate spoiler season in card games. So it's a fun little thing to come out and think about. But as we talk about these in the next coming weeks, I don't have a whole lot of thought on what they're going to do or what they could do. I guess I've given it very little thought. Is that weird?
No, I think that especially in this, it's totally reasonable. Allowing yourself to be, I guess surprised is the wrong word, but allowing yourself to be in the moment.
Take it for the ride. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I remember that during previous games, spoiler seasons, before everything was just literally dumped on you via 6 different social media outlets at one time, that things came in a trickle, and it just kind of made you wanting more and thinking about seeing the next thing and not necessarily wanting to speculate on it. So yeah, I think that that's totally reasonable and a lot of fun.
All right. Yeah, because whenever we talk about like what they could print or what rarity could come in at or whatever, my eyes always kind of start to spin, and like I just kind of check out. And I don't know if that's ever made me weird. Maybe that was a better thing to talk about as we get more into spoiler season. But as we're sitting here talking about it now, it was interesting to see how other people thought about it.
Yeah. Takes all types, man.
Yeah, printing heroes in the legendary slot's weird, right?
It seems like it. If you look at the one that's been done in that respect, it's sort of unplayable, sort of not. I mean, it's just more of a fun one to play.
That could be a fun like challenge mode in your PvE games.
Yeah, right.
As long as they're bad, I guess I'm fine with it, and it's just like a story thing.
Yeah.
But even then, like, why are we printing bad cards in like the most chase spot? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's literally
just
for that.
Pro and con. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail too much.
All about the journey, Jordan, not the destination, man. Don't be so results oriented.
Yeah.
God.
Jeez, knock it off.
Guys, I'm literally the one that just said I'm not results oriented. I literally am. Life is a highway.
What are you? But yeah, are you Tom Cochran or Rascal Flatts? Like,
oh god, I'm not Rascal Flatts.
Okay, good. Then we can still be friends.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not really too familiar with Tom Cochran myself, but I'm not Rascal Flatts.
Good.
They have frosted tips in 2022.
Oof.
Look,
that's a lot. That's a big mood.
All right, we have gone so far off topic.
Yeah, well, we don't have an idea to talk. Like, this is why it's waiting for Everfest, is because we're waiting forever for anything of relevance to talk about. They're killing us.
Well, we're going to talk about our Reddit thread of the week now.
That sounds good. I like the Reddit thread of the week.
So this was posted by Duo Maxwell 22333. And quick overview: a player called a local game store to pre-register for a Farewell to Rathe draft and was told that the spots were being reserved for store regulars until a later date. And then after that date, they could call and register. And then the question posed from the poster was, is this expected with these events?
this doesn't bother me at all.
I have
I get both sides. I get where this player is coming from in the sense of like it's really lame to like look up an event on the Flesh and Blood event finder, call and then be told that you can't play in that event. But I guess I don't care. Like local stores should foster their local communities or whatever.
Yeah, these events are limited to 16 players, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's prize support for 16 players.
So I'm not specifically bothered by it. I have more an issue of what's a store regular and how does that work for how are they defining that when somebody calls in? I think could be a bad thing because it could chase away new players that are like, oh, I can go try this game out on this day. It's like, oh, you're not a regular, you can't register, and I mean that'd turn a lot of people off immediately. However, I also very much so agree with the giving people that will show up and that are part of your community the priority to participate in these kind of special one-off events. That have no, you're fine. It's just I'm cringing at being okay with this, but I still feel okay with this.
Yeah, one of the people that commented on it was like, for this event, I get it. Like outside of that, like probably not. But like this is so like it's small and it's very limited, and like the people that play all the time are definitely the ones that want to be there for that. I can get behind that because right, it's the end of the product. They're not going to print anymore. Like it's the last hurrah.
The unlimited has become limited.
Yeah.
To bang my head against that table. Yeah.
But yeah, so like if they were calling for, I don't know, just like a standard Armory event or whatever, like, yeah, I'd feel bad about that. I would not be happy. But because it's such a short time, a highly desired thing, I think giving the benefit to the people that go to the store is fine here.
Yeah. I think I hear what you're saying, Logan, though, the room for abuse with like store regulars. What about store regulars that aren't well liked, right? Like, what if you are a member of a marginalized community and maybe your store isn't super jive on that and you get pushed out of this what if your store has 20 regulars,
Yeah.
There's a lot of like questions to answer with that. One of those stores here did a really good thing where I think it's good, where they basically said, hey, you know what? We're going to buy enough product so that anyone that wants to play can play, more than 16, whatever, but we are only going to award prizes to the top 16. If you want to draft Welcome to Rathe, this is the opportunity for that. And I think that's a good middle ground. But if you want to preserve the prize structure of like everyone gets a cold foil, I don't have a problem with this.
Yeah, my problem with my thing with the abuse portion of this is these cold foils are not going to go for a small amount of money. They're definitely going to be prizes that are worth having with how kind of limited that they're going to be. And again, LSS policy, once something has been printed in cold foil, it will never be printed in cold foil again. So these are going to be one-offs that you can't get cold foil again. And so a store could just say, oh, no, but it's reserved for our regulars, while the regulars happen to be the store owners' friends that don't know how to play the game, just so that they can rake all the cold foils and sell them later. Like, that's the kind of abuse where that's the triggering part of it when I read it is
not everybody has good LGSs like we do.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm hearing that and going that, I mean, it's a flag, but in this case, I don't think it's as big a flag because they're saying, oh, until this date. But if they were just like stonewalling people, that would be a lot more of a flag. But that's where the abuse in my mind comes in, is because one of the things that's really interesting about Flesh and Blood, and I think we've touched on this before, is that they provide super valuable things as part of their support.
And
from LSS, it's just like, well, that could be abused eventually, but if an LGS gets caught, they're also probably just going to get completely slapped down and never be able to participate in the game again. So
yeah, that's true too.
It makes me just, like I said, it's kind of cringing when I agree that I'm okay with it, but I think in this particular instance, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I like I said, I think I'm fine with it. I definitely recognize the downsides. There's a guy in here in the thread, or I guess it's a person in the thread that says community building and getting new players in does not hinge on one single event. I don't know if I agree with that, like, broad of a take about that. If you have a new player that's like, oh, I heard draft is a great way to try a game because you don't have to own anything. You just pay the fee and you're in, and then calls the store to do this event and then is told, well, hey, like, we don't know you can't play. That person's might be gone.
Right.
That's very reasonable that person's gone.
I think I think I agree with that take semantically, but I don't agree in spirit, because one event is not going to make or break a new player, but one experience certainly will. And
Definitely, yeah.
yeah,
I think like the community building aspect I might agree with. Like your community, your store infrastructure is not going to crumble.
No.
Because of this, right? If anything, if you have 16 regulars, it's going to feel tighter than ever, right? But the new player experience could be worse. Which, again, that's a risk I'm comfortable with in this scenario, given how particular this like event is. I wonder what LSS would say about that. I mean, it doesn't seem based on this thread that any actions have been taking place. I'm not sure we would even know that, but I wonder what their perspective on that would be.
yeah, that's a good question. They seem to be very in tune with the thought process behind community building and how that happens organically. So I think that this is something that they would have an opinion on. What that opinion is the most interesting part of it.
Right. I think at the end of the day, this might just be a non-issue and kind of a feel bad for this person that is looking to break into their local, their local community a little bit. I don't know. It sounds like this guy himself is not like gone and lost, because he's like, yeah, this is going to be our new competitive outlet. Like, just kind of a weird vibe. But
yeah, I mean, and quite honestly, it's pretty easy. You just buy 2 boxes of Aria, sit down with somebody that knows the game, open a tree, and you're in the game. It's as simple as that.
Boom, easy
peasy.
Now I'm on the store locator right now, seeing if there's any way I can squeeze an extra Farewell Welcome to Rathe event in. Because
I'm registered for 2, and I'm tempted for a 3rd.
I have 3. I'm trying to see because the one on Saturday is in like the early afternoon, and if I could find a 6 p.m. one, like I could go draft the 2 drafts on Saturday morning, and then go to the draft on Saturday night if I could find one.
I'm thinking of the insanity of driving 5 hours round trip on Friday to Kansas City, driving 7 hours round trip to Minnesota on Friday, Kansas City, Saturday, 7 hours round trip to Minnesota, and then 3 hours round trip to Cedar Rapids on Sunday.
Abby, where is Eaton?
Is that the one towards Cincinnati?
Oh, no, it looks like it's west of Dayton. So I have Columbus Friday, Dayton Saturday, west of Dayton Sunday.
Yeah, that goes to show people are willing to travel for these events, because I'm going to be driving like a maniac for the entire weekend.
Yeah. I'm driving the same route 2 days in a row. Oh, gross. Anyway.
I've driven that route before.
Yeah. I mean, you're not really a Magic player or a card player until you've driven back and forth several times in multiple weekends and like gotten to really know a stretch of 70.
Yeah, that's true. You are not wrong.
The first. All right. So moving on to our listener question this week. This is from Chuck and Lee. LSS has announced that the Comprehensive Rules 2.0 will be released along Everfest in February. What are your thoughts around the Rules 2.0? Any clarifications you want to see, or any rules that you would want to add? Logan, do you want to start there?
I think something needs to be done about, and I think, again, I touched on this earlier in another podcast, but draws counting as a double loss still bothers me. Mainly because, if nothing else, for factoring tiebreakers or something, it shouldn't count as 2 losses, because that feels like, especially in the upper echelons of when this gets to a point where we're in upper echelons of competitive events with lots of skin in the game when it comes to the making top 8s or whatever. That's where this gets to be abuseful. It's a loss for both of us. We both miss, so they're sitting privately determining through some other route what the end game should be. And because otherwise they both miss and they're both out of it unless somebody's paying attention. But this is where you end up with bribery issues, collusion issues, and a bunch of other stuff because you've made it into a double loss. I understand wanting to not have intentional draws be part of the game, but there has to be a way to both not have intentional draws be part of the game, but also have a not completely negative factor on tiebreakers or something else. That's, I guess, my biggest thing right now. I think that the rules in general for Flesh and Blood are pretty easy to understand. There are interactions that aren't easy to understand, but that's going to be part and parcel of any card game that starts going down the rabbit hole of mechanics. Once you have some sort of, not even critical mass, but some, large scale number of mechanics that exist in the card game, you're going to have spots like this where the mechanics are very difficult to maneuver around and understand, and things get a little muddy. And that's going to be just something that happens. But I think this game's rules in general are very good. There doesn't need to be a lot of changes. So mine is mainly based around how specifically how tournaments work in regards to record versus match points versus yada yada yada.
Gotcha.
Does Flesh and Blood have a gatherer type system that has rulings on all the cards?
Sort of.
Like, 'cause I know FabDB compiles a lot of that stuff, like from the release notes, but
I think that's it though.
Okay, like release notes are it.
Yeah. They definitely could use a
comprehensive,
something that addresses individual interactions when you read a card a little bit closer.
Yeah, I think that would be, in terms of like rules overhauls. I don't know this isn't like comprehensive rule specific, but like I go into the card gallery, click it, and then like it tells me something,
yeah.
That's the thing I'm looking for. We talked a little bit, you had brought up in our host section of our Discord about like alternate win conditions. I don't know what that would look like in Flesh and Blood, but that would be an interesting thing to explore. Magic got a little weird when it started implementing too many alternate win conditions, so I would hate to see them deviate too far from the plot. But I do think some kind of other alternative angle of attack for a hero or something would be interesting. Maybe cards that, if this card does X things, you win the game kind of vibe.
A Voltron vibe where if you have this, an illusionist has these 3 particular auras on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
At the beginning of your turn, you win the game.
Yeah, precisely. Other than that, like you said, the draws thing is the most awkward. Every weird or like negative experience we see kind of comes from my opponent played really slow and I played really fast and we drew, which obviously is only always a partial truth, but like still, it does lend itself to some feel bads when both players play an earnest game and draw, and now they might as well not have played an earnest game,
Right.
So that's an interaction I'd like to see fixed. But outside of that, I think you're right. I think the rules are intuitive enough. Cards, for the most part, do what they say. There's very few, but wait moments. I don't know if there's any rules that I would add to the comprehensive section outside of maybe exploring win conditions.
Abby, do you have any rules you want to see adjusted?
I thought that whole time I would come up with something funny, and I just couldn't. But no,
and the odds makers take a beating. Yeah,
I know. I think the draw is definitely the biggest, glaring thing that I would like to see them revisit. But other than that, I do not have any.
There you go. Our hope for CR 2.0 is them to fix something that feels bad when you're in a competitive environment.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess the CR won't even address that, right? Because like the CR is not the tournament rules, but
I don't know for sure. I don't know if they update both with I don't know how.
each happen at the same time.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
Me either. All right. So our giveaway, we are giving away a rainbow foil Courage of Bladehold. So go to our Twitter at FlushPod and like and retweet the pinned tweet, and make sure you're following us. And then we will announce the winner on next week's episode, so January 18th.
How many entries do we have? Do we know yet?
We have 13 entries.
So you have if you entered right now, you'd have a 1 in 14 chance of getting a free Courage of Bladehold for doing nothing more than liking, following, and retweeting. So you should probably just do that.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, we're not asking much. We're not asking you to tell us we're good at this. We're just asking you to give us eyes.
Yeah, just validate our existence by telling people that you like it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can just come in and say you suck and just stay following for a while, and you might get this.
Yeah,
and,
quote tweet it, tell us you hate it, and then set a calendar alert to unfollow later. I'm not going to check.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean if you leave that and I see it that I'm not going to write you a message directly on the card I send to you. But
pretty funny.
But it's still a thing.
That's pretty funny.
As always, you can follow us on Twitter at FlushPod. You can join our Discord. The link will be in the show notes. You can give us a 5-star review on Apple. You can subscribe on wherever else you listen to podcasts. You can like and subscribe on YouTube. My personal Twitter is at AbbyD83. If you don't like using that, you can send us an email at flushandpod@gmail.com.
I am on Twitter at I'mJorman. That's IMJORMAN. And I'm always talking flesh and blood or politics, or you can see how I do on Wordle every day. And also my DMs are open on Discord to people that I share Discords with. So hop on our Discord, hang out.
And I'm at Logan Peterson on Twitter, PETERSEN. I'm also Wordling. Today's was a bastard.
I had a hard time with today's.
Yeah.
That one was rough.
It was rough.
So yeah, you can. We will all be Wordling, and also you can, like I said, much like Jordan, my Discord DMs are open to people I share servers with. So hop in our server, DM me, tell me I'm terrible, ask me for Malort instructions, how to avoid it and or how to consume it without vomiting, and I will do my best.
So you do.
Yeah, right.
It's a full instruction.
I don't know if my DMs are open, so I'll try to figure out.
They are by default, so.
Okay. Then that is also an option for me, apparently.
Sorry, Logan.
That's okay. All right, well, that is all we have. So we will talk to everybody next week. Bye.